Hello, everyone. We're going to look at a couple of my past performances on TV, Bloomberg, Sky News, CNBC, and assess whether I got things more or less right or whether I said one or two howlers. And we're going to kick off with this one. This was my appearance on Bloomberg TV in either Jan or Feb 2010. In those days, I was working as head of treasury at Europe Arab Bank, the UK subsidiary of the Jordanian bank, and my appearance on Bloomberg TV, so I think it's January 2010, possibly Feb, and they're talking to me about the Eurozone crisis and potential Greek sovereign default because of budgetary problems in Greece. So we're going to watch that, and I'm going to comment on it as we go through, see whether I was more or less competent, or I came out with one or two post the fact howlers. Let's have a look.
Yeah, but joining us now is Moorad Choudhry. He is
well, he got that wrong to start with because it's pronounced Choudhry. But let's carry on.
Head of Treasury at Europe Arab Bank. Moorad, great to see you. Well, is there a disconnect between the reality of the situation as you would see it, that the Greeks are likely to default as much as, Elvis is going to turn up at the Albert Hall and...
I actually used to say Elvis playing down your local pub. I'm not sure I said Albert Hall. I think he made that one up. But yes, that's when I'm thinking something is very unlikely. That's usually the expression I use. What's the chance of Elvis playing live down your local tonight? So he got that one right, more or less.
Saying live to you, as you've been putting it, and what perceptions are outside of Europe.
Every participant has to remember that the euro is first and foremost a political construct and not an economic one. It's part of the tools by which the European Union forges ever closer union. If one remembers that, then one can be fairly certain that actual default, let alone leaving the euro, is not on the cards. It's not going to happen.
I got that exactly 1,000% right, and I'm really glad I said that because it's still my view. So I'm very happy to know that 13 odd years after that, I called that one right. And it was, yes, political construct. Long may it continue. Okay.
And I think, as you suggested, people outside of the Eurozone, people outside of Europe, need to be aware of that.
But surely they must be already. I mean, there's no mechanism for you, to really leave the euro, and to actually have a default on your debt would send the whole euro project into complete disarray.
There is a mechanism for the first. Certainly, Greece can default, absolutely. There's no reason for a particular member of the Eurozone, if it finds it simply cannot meet its repayment obligations, that it ends up defaulting. But again, because of the political impact of that on the euro project, that's why I think that's not going to happen. It's a view.
And it's a view I still maintain today, which is why we won't see default in the Eurozone.
And I think external investors potentially may think they can... they detect a default on the cards because their budget and their structural problems are so severe. But there will be some sort of assistance that ultimately works its way through the system, whether that's an IMF bailout, which I personally, again, for political reasons, don't think will happen, or more likely an EU-type assistance programme that will get Greece out of this.
Oh, gosh, I was on fire that day. I really was. Thanks for finding this video, Marty. I was on fire that day.
Tell us a little bit about the role of hedge funds in Greece's financial crisis. How aggressively are they operating, and are they benefiting from rises in CDS prices for Greek debt?
Well, I wouldn't know exactly what their strategy and thinking is. It's apparent that there is large institutional investor money, including hedge fund money, both synthetically and cash, that is, in effect, shorting the Greek sovereign name. You mentioned spreads and CDS prices. So it would appear that this large institutional investor money, which would include hedge fund trading, is not so much creating a problem as serving to focus on the problem. That's what happens when large parts of the market decide that something's going to happen, and they trade that way. So they're focusing the problem and they bring it to light. And in fact...
And markets have always indeed been like that, haven't they? There's always the next crisis point, the next point where some investor will try and make a quick killing, whether it's going long or short, and that does bring attention to whatever happens to be in the news. And we see that all the time, and that's always going to happen.
That is not necessarily the end of the world, because the Greek structural budget and deficit problems has been around for a while. It's just come to the fore now because of what investors and hedge funds are doing.
So you're saying that it's not they're not causing what's happening, they're simply focusing attention on it.
Ah, right. The age-old debate. In some countries, one isn't actually allowed to short markets, whether it's equity or I suppose CDS. There's laws against it. I know certain investors, or indeed retail investors, who say to me, "Oh, short sellers, they should be banned, etc." That's it's a bit of chicken and egg, is it? Is an investor, whether they're going long or short, responding to what's already happening, or is their activity actually forcing something to happen or making something happen that might not have happened if they hadn't suddenly gone in large in that field or in that space or in that asset class? And sometimes it's one and sometimes it's the other. It's that age old issue, and it doesn't go away, and it's always going to be debated.
But we've heard the Greek Prime Minister say that everyone knows there's speculation. He says hedge funds are pushing the market. Could we see this lead to some sort of political backlash against hedge funds?
Let's take both in order. I don't think the market creates not this problem. This is a problem. The Greek public sector deficit is large. Their statistics in the past were shown to be inaccurate. It is a problem. It's live. It's current. As I said, the investors, including hedge funds, are serving to focus issue on it by trading in a particular way. To take the other issue, is there going to be a regulatory backlash? Well, I don't want to comment on that. I don't know if necessarily that will result in.
Very sensible, Mr. Choudhry. Never speculate on what you think a regulator is going to do in response to any particular market event. They will move in their own way and in their own time, and I would always wish to wait until legislation had been published before determining how I respond. So never seek to speculate on what the regulatory response will be to any market event. Sensible chap, that guy.
Hedge funds being required to come under regulation. That's a separate argument. There's a case for saying, post the financial crisis, that all large market counterparties, because of the size of the positions they take, the systemic risk they may represent to bank counterparties, should come under regulation. But I think that's a separate debate, whether there was a Greek problem or not.
Weakest bit of this is going to be the euro, isn't it? Is the euro actually be the path of least resistance is down for the downside, and for how long?
At least until the summertime? That's a very good question. We've been saying the euro this year will be the weak currency. The dollar will appreciate from that. It always does in a flight to quality situation. Sterling will as well once we get over the first quarter or two. I think until April and May, when the Greek government has another repayment to consider, and until the summer at least, the euro is going to weaken in the FX markets, yes.
Moorad Choudhry, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us.
It's very unusual for me to predict FX markets at all. I'm not sure what I was thinking that day. I hope I got that one right. The euro being weak until the summer. Very unusual for me. But I must admit, I'm pleased with that because I didn't say anything unduly ridiculous many years later. So that's not a bad one. Thank you.